We tried to keep calm, hoping the HOA would back off or at least give us a chance to fix the barn without turning this into a full-blown conflict. But instead, the letters kept coming, each one more threatening than the last. The HOA board was pushing for a hearing, and they made it clear they wanted us gone, or at least forced to comply fully. We felt cornered, like our home was no longer ours. Then, just when we thought it couldn't get worse, the sheriff called us for a meeting. That call alone sent a chill down my spine. What could they possibly want after showing up unannounced at our barn? Were we in trouble? Was this about the barn, or something else entirely? We prepared ourselves for whatever was coming, but inside, the fear was growing. This wasn't just a property dispute anymore. It felt like we were caught in a storm we didn't understand, with forces beyond our control closing in. The next steps would change everything, and none of us knew if we'd come out on the other side the same. When we finally sat down with the sheriff, we thought it would be a simple conversation, maybe a misunderstanding cleared up, or some paperwork to sign. But what happened next blew us away. The sheriff didn't want to talk about the barn or the HOA at all. Instead, they dropped a bombshell. They were investigating something completely unrelated to the property dispute, but somehow connected to our land. They hinted at a tip they'd received about illegal activity, something about stolen goods or unregistered equipment hidden nearby. Our heads were spinning. We had no idea what they were talking about. Why would anyone think something like that was happening on our property? We'd never given anyone a reason to suspect us of anything illegal. The tension with the HOA suddenly felt like the least of our problems. Now, there was this mysterious, serious accusation hanging over us, and the sheriff's involvement was no longer just about a broken lock or community rules. Meanwhile, the HOA was growing even more aggressive, pushing for immediate action, citing safety concerns. It felt like everything was closing in, and we were stuck in the middle of two battles, one with our neighbors and one with the law. The neighbors' whispers turned into outright gossip, some looking at us with suspicion, others trying to distance themselves. With the sheriff's investigation casting a shadow and the HOA tightening the screws, we had no idea who to trust or what was really going on. The questions kept piling up, but the answers, they were nowhere in sight. What would this investigation mean for us? And could we clear our name before things got even worse? The next chapter in this story is going to change everything. After days of waiting and feeling the weight of the sheriff's investigation hanging over us, we finally got a break. The sheriff came back with answers, but not the kind we expected. It turned out the tip about illegal activity wasn't about us at all. The stolen goods they were looking for had been hidden in the barn by someone else, someone who had used our property without our knowledge. The sheriff showed us evidence, hidden compartments and surveillance footage revealing a stranger sneaking around the barn late at night. We were completely blindsided. At the same time, the HOA finally backed down after seeing the sheriff's findings. They admitted they had acted too quickly in cutting the lock and agreed to work with us on fixing the barn according to community guidelines. It was a relief, but also frustrating how much damage had been done before things got sorted out. At the same time, the HOA finally backed down after seeing the sheriff's findings. They admitted they had acted too quickly in cutting the lock and agreed to work with us on fixing the barn according to community guidelines. It was a relief, but also frustrating how much damage had been done before things got sorted out. Just when we thought the nightmare was over, here comes the final twist. While reviewing the footage, the sheriff spotted someone unexpected. A member of the HOA board visiting the barn at odd hours. Why were they there? What were they doing? This raised new questions none of us were prepared for. Was the HOA involved in the shady business somehow? Or was it something else entirely? We thought we had the full story, but now the mystery is deeper than ever. The barn, the HOA, the sheriff, they're all connected in ways we never imagined. And the truth? Well, that's something we're still chasing. Stay tuned, because this story isn't finished yet. You won't believe what happened to us last week. Our barn lock was suddenly cut off by the HOA, and when we rushed over, the sheriff was already inside waiting. I still can't wrap my head around how things escalated so fast. It all started with a few warnings about our barn, but we never imagined it would come to this. The HOA has been strict, but cutting our lock without notice. That felt like crossing a line. And then, out of nowhere, the sheriff shows up, not to help us, but standing inside like they were expecting us. It was the last thing we expected, and it left us completely stunned. This isn't just about a barn or a lock anymore. It's about how far some people will go to enforce rules, and what happens when things spiral out of control between neighbors and authority. I'm still trying to understand what led to this moment, and what the sheriff's presence really meant. We were caught off guard, and honestly, it felt like a scene from a movie, only this was our real life. Stay with me, because in the next part, I'll share exactly what happened inside that barn, the reason the sheriff was there, and how we're dealing with the fallout. Trust me, you don't want to miss this. So, here's the backstory you need to know. Our barn has been part of our property for years, a place where we store tools, old furniture, and a few things that don't fit inside the house. We've always kept it tidy, never caused any trouble, but lately the HOA started sending letters. They said the barn didn't meet certain community standards, and we needed to fix or remove some parts of it. We thought it was just annoying paperwork, nothing serious. But then came the notices threatening fines and even lock removal if we didn't comply. We tried reaching out to the HOA to talk things through, but it felt like they didn't want to listen. Our neighbors seemed divided too. Some were on our side, others were backing the HOA. The tension was building, but none of us expected them to actually show up and cut our lock without warning. That was the first shock. What really threw us off was seeing the sheriff there. Usually, the sheriff's office doesn't get involved in HOA disputes, so why were they inside our barn? Were they responding to a complaint? Or was something else going on that we didn't know about? We had so many questions running through our heads. Were they looking for someone or something? Was this about more than just a barn? I can't wait to tell you what we found inside and how it changed everything, but that's coming up next. This story is far from over, and trust me, it's going to get even more complicated. The more we tried to piece things together, the more complicated it got. The HOA insisted they had the right to remove the lock because, according to them, our barn was violating the community rules. But from our side, it felt like an invasion. Our barn wasn't just a building. It was part of our home, our memories, and now it was a battleground. What made it worse was the sheriff's presence. We later found out they were there because the HOA had called them, claiming some kind of disturbance or suspicious activity. But honestly, none of that made sense to us. We weren't causing trouble, so why involve law enforcement? Then there was the neighborhood drama. Some neighbors supported the HOA's strict enforcement, saying rules are rules and that we should have complied. Others quietly sympathized, feeling the HOA was overstepping and abusing their power. This divide created a kind of silent tension, people avoiding eye contact or whispering behind closed doors. It was strange how something as simple as a barn could stir up so much emotion and suspicion. Meanwhile, rumors started swirling about what the sheriff was really doing inside the barn. Some speculated they were searching for something illegal. Others thought it might be a personal issue unrelated to us. We had no clue who or what they were after, and every new theory just added to the confusion. It felt like we were caught in the middle of something much bigger than just a property dispute. With the HOA pushing harder and the sheriff's involvement hanging over us, we were left feeling powerless. What would happen next? Would they take more from us? Would the sheriff come back? The uncertainty was crushing, and the answers seemed further away than ever. As days passed, the tension in the neighborhood grew almost unbearable. Every time we walked past the barn, the empty space where the lock once was felt like a constant reminder that things were spinning out of control. We started hearing more about the sheriff's visit. Some neighbors claimed they saw officers taking photos. Others said they spotted them talking to someone late at night near our property. None of it made sense, but it all added to the feeling that something serious was brewing just beneath the surface.